Good afternoon and welcome to the distinguished lecture series on energy efficiency. Newer greetings to all the participants and welcome you all for this distinguished lecture. To just give you a quick brief, we started this lecture series in May 2020 and we had the privilege of several experts addressing us on this occasion. This happens on the first Monday of every month between 4 and 5. We had Mr. Ravichandran Purushothaman, Mr. Unnikrishnan, Mr. Ranganath, Mr. V. Suresh, Dr. Ajay Mathur, who was then the Director General of TERI, Mr. Tejpreet Singh Chopra, were some of the earlier speakers at this occasion. We also had Mr. Brian Madave, Head of Energy Efficiency of International Energy Agency, Dr. Naushad Forbes, the past President of CII, Dr. Jairam Bardharaj, Managing Director of LG Equipment, Mr. Padmanabhan, who was formerly the Energy Advisor of USAID, Dr. Rene Van Berkel, Head of the Regional Office of UNIDO, and Mr. S. Raghupati, Deputy Director General of CII, were some of the speakers in the last year. And we also had the privilege of Dr. Ashok Sarkar of World Bank, Mr. Saurabh Kumar of ESL, Mr. Abhay Bakre, the Director General of Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Dr. Anshu Bharadwaj, the CEO of Shakti Foundation, Mr. Chirag Baijal, MD of Carrier India. And lastly, in October 2021, we had the privilege of Mr. Upendra Bhatt, co-founder and managing director of C-Kinetics, delivering the distinguished lecture. Today, friends, we are privileged to have to the 19th lecture starting this year in 2022. We are privileged to have Mr. A.R. Unnikrishnan, managing director of Saint Gobain India Glass Business, addressing us and delivering the distinguished lecture. Mr. Unnikrishnan is the managing director of Saint Gobain India Private Limited Glass Business. More than 20 years of rich experience in the glass industry, and he played a pivotal role in establishing and taking Saint Gobain Glass India's leadership in the Indian market. It's one of the state-of-the-art manufacturing companies with impeccable quality and brand in India. Mr. Unnikrishnan was also instrumental in establishing the Safe Glass Consortium and also establishing the Glass Academy, a very unique initiative towards world-class manufacturing and skill building practices amongst the various building fraternity. To just give you an idea of Mr. Unnikrishnan in terms of his achievements and contributions, Mr. Unnikrishnan has been very closely involved with the Saint Gobain Group right from the beginning. He initially joined the Grindwell Group, which was acquired by Saint Gobain subsequently. He has worked with the Saint Gobain leadership team since 1997 to develop the strategic blueprint for Saint Gobain's investment in India in the glass business. He has been leading and guiding many initiatives apart from his leadership at Saint Gobain. He's a thought leader in the area of sustainability and has been one of the important persons who have been involved in regulations and drafting policy initiatives. We have had the privilege of Mr. Unnikrishnan contributing to many of the rating programs of the Indian Green Building Council. He has been very closely associated with the IGBC right from the very beginning, and his leadership and technical inputs have been very, very useful in developing of several of the rating programs of IGBC. The chairman of Glazing Society of India, chairman of CII Tamil Nadu CEO Forum. He's also chairing right now the CII Southern Region Task Force on Future of Manufacturing. And last but not the least, he's also a member of the Executive Board of Indian Green Building Council, IGBC. Thank you, Mr. Unnikrishnan. Thank you for your time. It's a privilege to have you deliver this distinguished lecture. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Venkatagiri, for a very generous introduction. I also wish you, your family, and everyone who's participating today a very, very happy New Year. Give me a second to share the slides. I hope you can see the presentation. Thank you. So it's a real pleasure and honor to be invited to deliver the lecture today as part of the IGBC platform. When you talk about green, sustainability, energy efficiency, and especially from a building and industry point of view, the first name that comes to your mind is IGBC. And because of the pioneering work the Indian Green Building Council has done over the past couple of decades in the country. So it's a real privilege and honor to be here today delivering this lecture. So thank you for inviting me. When you talk about energy efficiency, the first thing that comes to our mind is really on the ill effects of not having energy efficiency, or what we immediately associate with the climate change and its the negative effects that we suffer. Being located in Chennai, I think I am reminded more often than probably other places on the ill effects of climate change. Even as late as last Thursday, we received an unseasonal, exceptionally high amount of rain, which brought the whole city to a standstill. So I think all of us are experiencing in different forms the ill effects of the climate change. The amount of the greenhouse gases, the CO2 that is going to be emitted as the whole world is economically advancing, and as a country we are advancing towards our 5 trillion objective by 2030. It's going to be profound. So I think it's all the more important that we are talking about the energy efficiency today. As if the current situation is not sufficient, I think the whole world is on an economic growth trajectory, especially post-COVID. Most of the economies are seeing a significant growth. India is not left behind. Therefore, the load on the emissions, the load on the climate change is going to be even more significant in the years to come. It's not just that. I think it's the energy mix, the source of energy that different countries have, also therefore results in significant amount of extraction of resources, be it natural resources for purely from the oil and gas, or from the different building materials, construction materials, whatever we need for our economic growth or our aspirations for a better living is really making us deprive the world of more natural resources, in turn, therefore, resulting in more CO2 emissions. Now, all what I said so far is on the moral side, which I think many of us understand, and we are responsible enough to ensure that the way we design, construct, do our businesses, we are very much aware of that and we take care of that. I think there is another important angle which needs to be seen as businesses, and more so as a country. India needs to understand is that today 60% of our energy production is from fossil fuels. Only the 40% comes from either hydro or other renewable sources of power. 60% comes largely from coal and gas and other fossil fuels, which means it's not the best way of producing energy. It's not the sustainable way of growing the economy. As a country, we spend around 6 lakh crores every year on importing oil and gas for various needs, for various energy needs, be it in the public sector or in the private sector, including the mobility, all that put together. And as a country, we are not, we don't produce too much of oil and gas from our own soil, and we are heavily dependent on imports. 85% of our oil and gas needs are met from imports from different countries. So we have a larger existential question as an economy, as a country, which is on a tremendous growth path, where we want to become 5 trillion in a few years' time. This actually raises significant questions on our energy security, our forex reserves. Is it sufficient enough to really support this kind of a growth? So I think apart from the sustainability and the moral issues that we need to really consider while looking at the energy efficiency. I think as Indians, we have even more reasons to really look at why energy efficiency is so important. Now, the energy is used for various purposes. Today in my talk, I am largely going to focus on two sectors. One of the buildings, which all of us live, work in buildings largely. And second is from the industries, because I'm sure many of the participants today are also from the industry, and therefore we manufacture, we provide product solutions, we extend services in many industries. So buildings and industries, these two account for roughly around 70% of the energy which is consumed. I'm not talking about the greenhouse gas emissions. On that, probably the contribution would be less because the agriculture also contributes a significant part of it. Maybe transport contributes even more. But purely from an energy efficiency point of view, roughly around 65 to 70% of the energy consumed is either in the buildings or in the industries. So if we can do something really on improving energy efficiency, I think we are really contributing to a more sustainable development for our country. The other important aspect to be considered is that unlike many of the developed countries, whether it is US or some parts of Europe, for us, 2/3 of our buildings are yet to be constructed. That means we have two issues on one side. Therefore, we need to, the risk for us is even larger. But on the positive side, we can learn from the mistakes of many of the other developed countries and do things very differently. Start our construction, start our designs, everything very differently, so that the future construction is more energy efficient, more sustainable. And it's very evident that in the buildings, whether it's commercial buildings or in the residential buildings, the cooling and the appliances are going to be the two prominent consumers of energy going forward, and this is expected to become even more. The aspirations of people are higher, for the need for comfort is even more, and therefore both are leading to more appliances being used, more air conditioning being used. So I think it's bound to have more energy consumption in the country. Therefore, there is a need for us to focus on what we can do in the case of buildings and what we can do in the industries, those who produce products and offer it to the building materials or any other industry for that matter. What can we do on the energy efficiency? So I propose, that we should really look at it from these 5 different dimensions: policy, product, process, philosophy, and the people point. I'll quickly take you through each one of those. As far as the policy is concerned, I think that's where IGBC has been a pioneer in really, setting a policy framework in the country. Even before, as a country, we started talking about energy efficiency. We started talking about what can be done in the buildings. I think IGBC had set the framework for green buildings in the country and really started a movement over 2 decades back. There are other organizations also working in that. I think so. Green Building Forum itself is a great source of inspiration and technical content for us to really set the policy framework in the country. We have Energy Conservation Building Code in the country, which came in 2007, further upgraded in 2017. But unfortunately, it is still not made mandatory in the country. And a recent study that we did as part of our business when we were analyzing, we found that only 45% of the buildings comply with the ECBC from a building envelope point of view. Now, that is there's a lot of headroom for us to really improve on the energy efficiency point of view. It's also important, therefore, that we have many standards which are developed. Today, in the National Building Code, we have a chapter included on energy efficient design, on sustainability. I think we must compliment our current chairman of IGBC, Mr. Suresh, who was really championing that cause and leading that particular panel and ensuring that that is included in the national, building code. Therefore, I think a lot of good work has happened. But I think from a policy point of view, there is a need for making certain things mandatory, because that's how, as a country, as citizens, we are used to. What gets mandatory, we tend to follow a lot more than what is voluntary. So I think there is a need for the policy framework to move in that direction. However, we also need to make that compliance much more easier, less costly. So the monitoring and verification mechanism, the people required for that, awareness on people who are required to design, implement all that. I think all that requires a lot to be increased from that point of view. As a country, we are advancing heavily on digital. I think we have a great opportunity to use digital platforms to really provide knowledge, modeling, and so many other things to really advance from a policy framework without too much of pain for the end consumers. I want to share with you a couple of examples of what some of the other countries have done. For example, in France, as part of when the COVID struck, the biggest issue was on how are you going to really recover the economy. One of the smartest things that European Union has done, and especially France has done, was really to provide many incentives to boost energy efficiency for sustainable development. Around 80% of the construction in a country like France happens from renovation of buildings, not new construction. Huge amount of incentivization has been done. If I remember right, it's around 560 billion euros have been set aside for improving energy efficiency in the building sector. Now, this is a huge impetus when you are looking at boosting the economy and at the same time also energy efficiency. And it's a holistic picture which is looked at. So look at the life cycle, the energy consumption of a building and incentivize based on that, not based on only the parts, but as a whole. It's a very good example of how, from a policy dimension, you can really boost energy efficiency. Even way before COVID, I think United Kingdom, UK had followed a window labeling system, a window rating system, which is very easy to understand, which applies across the country in different parts of the country. Very easy to understand, very easy to implement, and very easy for the consumers to source products. And it was really incentivizing from a market dynamics point of view, energy efficiency. I think these are very good models that that we can borrow from elsewhere in the world. As a country, we are also investing a lot of money on boosting the economy. One, to revive post-COVID. There are many PLI schemes, production-linked incentive schemes, which are running. So I think many of us, if we can come together and make a real case with the government, I'm sure we can get a reasonable amount of money kept aside for boosting energy efficiency in buildings, in the industries. That's on the policy framework. Let's now leave the government. Let's look at what we can do ourselves. I think as manufacturers, as providers of products, solutions, and services in the market, I think it's our it's our responsibility to ensure that one, we adapt the products and solutions to our country. India is very different from some of the other countries. What applies in the US may not apply in India. Therefore, it is necessary for us to adapt. We need to invest in terms of, we have a very strong case for Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India. It's equally important for us to research in India, to set up research facilities. So I'm sharing a few things, as an organization that we had done over the past couple of decades. We have one of our 8 global transversal research centers in India, in IIT Madras Research Park, where over 100 PhDs, they work on providing solutions for hot and humid climates, so which is very much adapted to our situations. Second is, you need to create the capacity to produce products. I mean, I remember when IGBC started the movement on green buildings, one of the key topics was where are the products? Do we have the material, building materials available in the country to really make the green buildings? And are those materials going to be more expensive? Therefore, is green building going to be more expensive? I think it is very important that each of us from the industry, we invest ahead of time, create the capacity, create the capability in the country to produce and make available products which will boost energy efficiency. We did that 15 years back when the green buildings were in very nascent stage at that time itself, to really produce energy efficient glasses which will make the facades more energy efficient. So you don't consume a lot of energy for cooling, but you let in adequate amount of light for daylighting, but at the same time you cut on the energy ingress into the building. Today, 90% of the products that we manufacture and sell in India are EPD certified. So it's a commitment. It's a commitment that if you are a serious player in the country, that we need to make. So I think it's important for us to not restrict our efforts to just mere communication on green, but real things on the ground in terms of life cycle assessment, creating the capability, creating the research capability, creating the expertise within your organization so that you can really help the ecosystem to make energy efficient buildings. So product life cycle is something that we have been really focusing today. We believe, I think when you talk about energy efficiency, one of the key point to note is also the negawatt. That is the energy that you did not consume because you had the designs which were better, the materials used were better in the buildings. Our estimate is that thanks to energy efficient products which were made available to the Indian market, we would have contributed to at least 15 gigawatts of capacity addition to energy. Now, if that is what we could as an organization do, as a single organization, just imagine the power that all of us have together, the various sectors, various industries together, the power that we have in terms of really boosting energy efficiency and really enabling sustainable development. Another huge important factor is also the raw materials and the what we call broken glass cullet. So in our industry, glass is infinitely recyclable. So which means you can keep recycling as many times as you want. It doesn't deteriorate in terms of the quality. So the effort is really how do you bring in more and more broken glass from the process anyway we get, but also from the market, from our customers, from our channel, from the building sites. I think there are specific efforts being made to really bring in the circular economy in our system. It's not very mature. At least in the case of glass, it's not very mature. I know that in the case of electronics, I think there's been some element of effort in terms of building the circular economy, but on many of the building materials, we still don't have. I think if we can do that, that significantly improves the energy efficiency because the energy that you require to melt broken glass is significantly lower than the energy that you require to melt virgin raw materials. So it's a significant advantage, even if you have to probably invest a little higher in the initial phase. So that's on the product. Coming to the process, I think many of us are in the building materials industry. Many of us are also manufacturing, not necessarily building materials, but in the manufacturing sector. And we consume a lot of energy in our manufacturing process. One of the things that we can do, and I think our experience is that thanks to good design of our manufacturing processes, machineries that we use, intelligent application of Industry 4.0 techniques, we can easily save around 15 to 20% of the energy that we consume. That's hell of a lot. That's a hell of a lot of energy that you can save. For example, the furnaces that we have for manufacturing of glass, these are large furnaces, producing 1,000 tons a day of glass, consume a lot of energy. I think we have been systematically working on improving the energy efficiency. Now, thanks to the kind of furnace design, use of data from the previous furnaces, and the right choice of refractories, we have managed to bring down the energy efficiency or improve the energy efficiency and bring down the energy consumption by 25% compared to what furnace which was built 10 years back and now. No, that's a significant improvement that you can do. So these are efforts that we need to do. Industry 4.0, I think it's a most talked about subject, probably less understood also as a subject. We found that simple methods from the Industry 4.0, for example, having smart energy meters in different parts of your production line, which tells you on a real time in terms of what are the energy consumption at each station, each motor, and each point, can significantly help you to understand, are you consuming more, are you consuming less? You can make the direct comparison with like to like equipment and make significant progress on that. We have done that. Today, 100% of our manufacturing facilities are equipped with this kind of smart energy meters, which really helps, combined with VFD and many other things, which I'm sure some of the speakers prior to me would have alluded to. You can significantly reduce on the energy consumption. You have very cost-effective, simple condition monitoring mechanisms available from the Industry 4.0 platform, which tells you in advance, measuring the vibrations, measuring the temperature on any kind of a breakdown, which is likely for an equipment. Remember, any kind of breakdown in industry, in the manufacturing, is going to consume then energy without producing anything. So I think it's important. So use simple methods, having visual tools to really measure, monitor, and display on the OEE, on the overall efficiency of the equipment. The simple tool by which you nudge people to improve on the OEE. The higher the OEE, the less the energy that you consume. And have very good methods. How do you really empower our team and have a very good method in terms of aligning the people to really work on this energy efficiency improvement projects. So these are a few steps that we practiced in our manufacturing sites, and we have found very good results for that. And 15 to 20% reduction on energy consumption is something significant. So these are very easily available. And let me also tell you, the Industry 4.0 investments aren't very high. In fact, you get the payback in less than a year in most cases. In very few cases, probably maybe a year and a few months, but significantly lower compared to many of the other investments that we typically make. Now coming to the people, I think this is where finally, you can have the technology, you can have policies, you can have frameworks, everything, but finally it's people, all of us, who make things happen. One, it is necessary for us to really build necessary skills in our industry, in our ecosystem. One of the initiatives that we did, and I'm happy that Mr. Venkat mentioned about Glass Academy in his introduction, and IGBC was one of the very, very early adopters. I remember around 10 years back, Glass Academy had signed the MOU with IGBC in providing e-learning modules on energy efficient design of buildings, energy efficient design of facades, and so many things from that point of view. I think these are steps that each of us can take in our respective industry. How do we really help our ecosystem? Because it's not just one person or one organization or one sector that is going to change the whole thing. I think all of us have to contribute in each of our sectors. In what way we can provide a platform to really impart more knowledge, create more skills to improve on energy efficiency is something which is extremely important. And I would really urge, and especially all the manufacturers and all the service providers in the building and the industry sector, to really pay attention on that. The last of the P's is really on the philosophy. And to me, I think this is the most important one when you are looking from an organization's point of view. Now, it's important that you have, as an organization, have a larger purpose beyond making profits, beyond making money. You have a larger purpose as an organization that binds the whole organization, regardless of where you are, what level you are, whether you are working in the shop floor or whether you are, the director of a company, it doesn't matter. How do you bind everyone together for a larger purpose? And the purpose which is more closely connected to sustainability, energy efficiency, and green development. So just to share with you, I think I'm privileged to be working in Saint-Gobain, where we have a very clearly stated purpose that we want to make the world a better home for everyone in the future. Now that has several meanings, and one of those meanings is really on really providing a sustainable future, green development, energy efficiency. Now, when you set that kind of a large purpose statement and you align, what it has really done is it has brought people in 70 countries, around 180,000 people together under one umbrella with one simple purpose or reason for us to exist. That's not enough. The purpose alone is not enough. Therefore, you also need to clearly set a vision and articulate it in simple terms for the whole organization. So be the worldwide leader in light and sustainable construction is the vision for all of us. 180,000 people working in this organization in 70 countries, one single vision, which is be the worldwide leader in light and sustainable construction. Now that's a significant and a very, very strong message to everyone in the organization to align with a very noble cause. Of course, it also gives economic results, but it aligns you with a noble cause for you to really further work on. Again, purpose and vision are not enough. You also need to set measurable, quantifiable objectives also as an organization. So as an organization globally, we have set 2050 as the year by which we want to reach carbon neutrality. Now, this is, one can say, okay, 2050 is another 28 years from now. Many of us may not be working, many of us may not be even living also, so how does it matter? But I think you have to break it down. It's a journey. 2050 objective is a journey, it's a destination that we want to reach, for which we have to go through a journey. So we have now objectives set for every 5 years, every 10 years in terms of what we have to achieve, in terms of energy efficiency, in terms of resource consumption, in terms of water consumption. This is very important. So as an organization, I think having this philosophy, a strong philosophy, which is really supporting sustainability, energy efficiency is very important. And that too articulated in a very, very structured fashion with a clear purpose, clear vision, and clear goals, which are measured. And not just that, it's also incentivized and disincentivized. So there are internal carbon pricing, which are very strictly implemented when you're talking about any capital investment, when you're talking about the operations. These are very strong internal incentives and disincentives, which will really help that everyone aligns with this kind of an objective. So this is something which, to me, I think very important, because many of us work in different kinds of organizations, whether it's a large organization, small organization. It's important for us to have a philosophy, a purpose, which is very well aligned with sustainable development. So these are the 5 P's which I thought I will share. I mean, it's nice to lament about lack of energy efficiency or so much of CO2 emissions, but it's equally important, or even more important, for us to look at what are the solutions. That is when we become part of the solution than part of the problem. So to me, I think these 5 P's are very important for us to, and easily implementable in each of our domains. Last, before I end, I think the crucial part is how do we get? I mean, again, as I said earlier, it's not for one organization, one individual, one sector alone to make this happen. It requires many of us to come together. Those who are designing a buildings, designing a factory, or building the machinery for an industry, to consultants who are involved in that, the companies who are involved in the construction, various material suppliers, to policy makers, people who are consulting on energy efficiency. I think all the stakeholders need to come together to really make this happen. And I once again would really compliment IGBC on that. I think through its various efforts on green buildings and also Green Co and green products rating, various rating mechanisms. It has created a platform for many of us from different walks of life, different sectors to come together. And I am sure, under the chairmanship of Mr. Suresh and the leadership of Mr. Venkatagiri, you will have many more initiatives to really bring the different stakeholders together to ensure that as India walk towards that 5 trillion economy and we become an economic power, we also set an example to the world that we can do that in a more energy efficient, in a more sustainable, and in a more green way. So thank you for your attention. I'll be happy to take any questions if you have.